Okay, we're live again. Hello, guys and gals and non-binary pals. This is That D&D podcast, and we are back with another installment of our Improbable Interviews series. Before we introduce our special guest, let's go around and introduce ourselves. Just a quick, hey, here's where you can find me online, and pronouns is probably good. So, hi, I'm Aaron. I partially run the podcast Twitter, and if you ever want to find me, just look for the Road Virus on Twitter with a 3 instead of an E. Pronouns are she, her.
I guess me, yeah. Hey, I'm Matt. I do itinerant character work on the show. Sometimes I GM once in a while. You can find me and my terrible GMing opinions at the Killer GM on Twitter.
Hi, I'm Zach. I am on a lot of our stuff. I'm at Thrognar on Twitter, and I'm not sure we're streaming right now.
It looks like it's up for me.
Is it?
Yeah, we've got it. It's
on.
on.
That's weird.
Yeah, it's live.
Cool. Well, as long as everybody else got it, I'm good. I just wanted to make sure I was looking at it.
Point it out.
Making me panic. That's fine.
Sorry. I don't mean to add to your panic. There we are. I got it.
This is fine.
I'm an old person. It's hard. The internet's hard for me.
And last but certainly not least, DC, you want to introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm DC. Throwing my phone into the ocean. I use he, him, and they, them pronouns. I can be found on the internet on Twitter at Dungeon Commander with no E in Commander. And sometimes I make games and say things.
Only sometimes?
Nice.
Only sometimes. Sometimes I sit in complete silence, waiting for the next day to come.
That sounds kind of nice.
Well, at least you got something to look forward to with the whole next day thing. So.
Try to, anyways.
Okay. Well, first things first, let's touch on the whole sometimes you make games. You just released a game. So do you want to give us like a quick synopsis of it? Elevator pitch, I guess?
All right. I'm going to hit 14th floor, so I have a little extra time.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Get that good elevator music going behind you.
So, Abolish ICE, and my game is about being a marginalized person, and the way I allowed everyone to take part in that experience without skin suiting is by using the allegory of mutants. And in the game, you play an empowered mutant, someone who has an ability, which is very rare, and you have the ability to, well, the choice to fight back against a government system that pretty much throws you in a corner and says, we're going to figure out what to do with you, and you don't have much of a say in that. So, relevant.
Let's say that seems especially relevant today.
Yeah. I like it.
Seems good. Solid pitch. Solid pitch.
So from the game, do you have like a favorite mechanic that you put in there, or is there like one line that like whenever you see it you're like, yeah, I wrote that damn thing?
I get a lot of comments on I wrote like a letter to the player or GM or whoever at the beginning of the game that I don't read, but when other people do, they're like, "Yo, this is really good." That's my favorite. It's a letter saying, "This is an allegory, and the things you encounter here are things that real people encounter every day. Everything inside of it is true. Meaning that all of the laws and social pressures that exist are one-to-one with things that people experience like day to day. So when you play this game, be aware of that. That's the sign in front of the door.
Definitely.
It's my favorite.
Cool. That's really strong. I like that.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good It's a good passage. It definitely sets the tone. It puts you in a very different state of mind than you might be if you just show up looking to play this superhero game, right?
Yeah.
So that's important, I think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it seems like it would switch it a lot more from like, oh hey, let's fuck around for a couple hours to like, oh no, this is maybe a chance to like embody someone else's life a little bit and kind of learn about the stuff they've got to go through, which that's one of the things I really love that tabletop games can do, is kind of give you a chance to see life through somebody else's lens, and that's like super valuable.
Yeah.
Eating all these gummy bears, I gotta get them away from me.
Why Fortress in the Dark? Like, why did you gravitate towards that system?
The big reason is that I realized what John was trying to do with the game.
Okay.
That's the core thing. Everyone who makes a game, whether they realize it or not, and it is better to know, is trying to say something very specific. Even in games that are just like romance games or something, people are trying to say, look at this particular very intimate situation and how people act with these elements. Like, it's not just like, oh yeah, let's go kiss. Although it totally is that too.
Oh yeah.
But Blades in the Dark is about being poor and making bad decisions. And choosing the way that will be most beneficial to you, regardless of how much danger and trouble you can get into, and what like oppression looks like in poverty. So when I realized that, I was like, the first thing that came into my mind was like, John, you bastard.
You did it again.
Clever girl. Like, it was the first thing in my head. I was like, this is a good game already, and I hadn't even like finished reading it. So when I was thinking like, how am I going to make like the Black experience possible and also intersect with like the LGBT plus experience and have all those intersections. It's like a Forged in the Dark game is going to give me all of the tools, because at the time I didn't know anything. All of the tools to fit in at least the elements that have already been created and described in Blades, and then just fill in the blanks for the things that I needed.
Sure.
So
yeah, that's cool. That's a really astute observation. I think that for a fair number of people who play Blades in the Dark, they never catch the underlying theme of you're poor, things suck, this is what you have to do. So like I do like that intersection. I think that's a really good reason. I was wondering if it had something to do with the cohesion of the crews or if there was a specific system in there, but I like the idea that it was just it fit your concept. That's cool. Having played it with you and played it, my experience was it was a very fun. First of all, it was a lot of fun. Had a ton of fun playing the game.
the game's fun as hell.
It really is. It really is. I mean, yeah, it's a game of, and I think it does a very good job of expressing the like needs and troubles of marginalized peoples, of not just like passively marginalized peoples, but like actively push down marginalized peoples, right? And but it also does give you that like visceral satisfaction of fighting back against the power, right? And that's really cool. I did notice, and one of the things that was very interesting to me is a couple of the people that we played with, when we were playing, they were looking for pieces of Blades that weren't there. And that makes total sense to me because they're coming from Blades, right? And to me, extracting pieces is a very interesting concept in game design. If you take a base thing and you start pulling pieces out, the decisions for why those pieces get pulled out are a thing I'm very interested in. Like, there's no load in Mutants in the Night, right? You just kind of have the thing you need, right? There's no engagement rule in Mutants in the Night. What prompted those decisions?
Honestly, what prompted those decisions was maybe John Harper.
Okay.
I want to say that the 5 months of making the game are like a haze. I was just in it. I lived, breathed it, all my thoughts, everything. Like I'm living a brand new life since I released the game. I'm like, oh, I have all this mental space. I can do things. There's always a fear, I feel like, when hacking a game that's really good, because Blades is a really, really good game.
Yeah.
There's this huge fear that taking away elements is a negative because the things work so well. And even after being told, hack this up, make it yours, there are still bits in it now that I need to alter and change now that I've been playtesting a bunch. But Blades specifically, and a lot of Powered by the Apocalypse games, are really strong because the core is strong. So when you take things out, you're not breaking that core. That's good game design on their part, to have a game that's so easily hackable. You can just go, I can pull these things out and it'll still work. But there's a point where I had to start thinking that Mutants is my own game. And the further that I get in that direction, the more I'm like, load. I was talking to Avery about this, that like load isn't something that's necessary, because if you are not a criminal, you're not going to be like, okay, we need to pack all these things ahead of time. If you're a mutant who's hanging out and is like, oh, I need to go do some stuff, I have powers.
Yeah. And it's not like, how many toothpicks is suspicious for me to carry?
Right. It's like, I'm going to use whatever abilities I have. You can assume things that you'd have. There's the pyromantic, one of the power sheets, and you control flame, but you can't generate flame. So you can infer that that person's going to have a lighter on them at all times. They're going to have several different ways to light things on fire. And it takes away from the game to be like, okay, well, do you have rope and whatnot? Oh, I didn't write down that I had that. In Blades, that makes a lot more sense because you might be infiltrating a place to steal something, and that's very important. In Mutants, it's like, yeah, you're like this urban punk person. If you say you have a skateboard, sure, smack somebody in the face with a skateboard. Or you have your lighter, you have paint cans because you do art. Like, it's all stuff that's really intuitive, and nobody has gone to a point where, because one, items aren't all that important. No one's gotten to a point where they've questioned items that they have. And whenever they say, do I have this? I just say yes, because it's always reasonable. It's not going to break the game. I mean, you have superpowers, so
already breaking the game anyways. Might as well do a little more.
You're breaking the game. That's the whole point. Everything else, nothing else in the game is going to be as strong as you. Other when it comes to like direct mechanical ability. So
right,
it's fine.
Makes sense.
Definitely. Let's see. Okay, so what was your normal method like? What's your average day where you're working on the game? Was it like you wake up and you just kind of hammer away at it all day? Do you go somewhere to like? Do you go to a room by yourself to hang out? Do you go to a coffee shop to be around people? Like, what's your core like productivity thing?
Oof. When I was actually sitting there writing stuff, I think what helped the most was in my Discord channel, I started doing a community design session, like get together, where on Tuesdays, 5 p.m., since there are a lot of designers in my channel, it was like, look, people have an issue just getting work done sometimes, and the best thing to do to remedy that is to just schedule some time. So for 2 hours, like 10 people will get together and just do work. And when we started doing that, I started knocking out smaller pieces of Mutants like week after week, and I was like, I'm actually getting things done like at a good pace. I would look at the game and go, oh, there's so much to do, and then next thing I know, it's like, well, there's a little less now. And from some of those sessions, it would turn from 2 hours to there was a day where I worked for 6 hours straight. I was just in the zone. And a part of that is the support that comes from working and knowing that other people are there and setting goals and having like a support system, because everyone supports each other. And the way it works is we all list goals. We have check-ins. We go, how much did you complete this goal? It's okay if you didn't. Sometimes you got to go take a break or just not work or just think. And that like acceptance made it a lot easier for me to get work done and for people to be like, you knocked out 4 hours. You did 20 minutes. Like, so.
Nice.
Yeah, that seems like a really useful like community tool for sure. I've been bummed because I've been on your Discord for like a couple of weeks now, and we always stream on Tuesday nights. So like it starts like just as your designer group is starting. So I haven't gotten to hang out yet. It's like cool.
Nice.
We're probably gonna get to the point where we're doing like more than one a week, so that people with different, there's a lot of different time zone stuff in there too.
Yeah.
And,
time zone coordination.
Melody, Magical Space Girl on Twitter, she's come in on Saturdays and has started running like her own version, which has been nice. And like people from different time zones or who can't make it on Tuesday will do that. And I'm trying to get more flexible in that so more people can enjoy what's been helping out so much.
Cool.
Nice.
Cool. That's great. That's great.
How has having that community backboard helped influence you with your design? I know, deep cut here.
Like, I went from like tiny brain to like galaxy brain because of the community that is just kind of grown in that Discord server. And it's a lot because there's a wide range of experience there. There are people who have several games out there published with a company and all that stuff. And then there are people who are coming in for the first time going, I have this thing that I want to work on and I've never worked on anything before. And what's really helped is that every single person is an equal, because design isn't quantitative, it's qualitative.
Yeah.
So if someone has a good idea, it's a good idea. That's it. It doesn't matter if you've published 1,000 books. If you have a bad idea, it's a bad idea.
Exactly.
Your experience can like change how you think about something and like change your perspective and give you certain insights on how things have worked. But when it comes down to your game and what you're trying to do, you are the best person to make that happen. And a lot of people in the community understand that and have taught that to others without really saying it. And so the way that people assist each other is a lot from a place of, maybe this will work, or if you'd like me to take a look at this, here are ways that I can give proper feedback, or what kind of feedback do you want? Like that sort of energy and collective has, and just like honestly conversations that just sprout up because we're talking about things. They've taught me a lot because designers like to talk about design.
Funny thing about that.
That's kind of why this whole series exists.
Right. And so I'm a sponge. So people will say something and I'll be quiet for 3 minutes and go, you just blew my mind. I'm going to frame that in my head. That happens multiple times per conversation. So
awesome. That's great.
Yeah, I just joined the Discord earlier today, and just first off seeing like all the names that I recognize from like really insightful shit that people have posted on Twitter and like people I've interacted with and just rad folks in general. I'm like, okay, no, this is a good space. Like, you've done a very good thing.
I credit all of them because I just made a thing, and I say that it's the field of dreams, kind of situation. Because I really just made
yeah.
the thing, and people started showing up, and I was like, "Okay, you're here now." Very, very intelligent person that I admire very much on Twitter that is now in my Discord and speaking to me, and yeah, so I appreciate it very much, and all the people in there, I absolutely adore them.
Cool. Very cool.
So, what was it that made you specifically get into making games? Like, did you feel that there was a story that wasn't being told that you wanted to tell? Did you just feel like you had a cool idea for a way to tell a story, or what was like the motivation?
That was a really interesting time because I was I'm originally a D&D player, and I probably always will be. It's not my favorite game, but it is my most loved game when it comes to history. Been playing since I was 14, 15 or something. And so me and a friend were developing some supplements for DM's Guild. He was my DM at the time. And I realized that there are a lot of things in D&D that I don't like. Representation is bad. There's not enough. I mean, Chult came out, and I was like, "Oh no, that was a mess." And I'm the kind of person that I want to do something. Like if I'm sitting there talking about something and complaining about it, I also have the energy to do something, and it doesn't have to be like jumping in with sword and shield. There's like always a method that works for me. So I knew that I wanted to make a game that could help people understand the thoughts that I was having. And because tabletop RPGs is a largely white cis male like field, the game had to be like a lesson and also fun. And that's hard. So Avery, creator of Monster Hearts and Dream Askew, which is coming out in a cool book now, and we found each other on Twitter because she said something amazing, and I like replied with a GIF, and her being her, she messaged me and said, "Oh, I see that you make tabletop related things. Like, can I promote and boost you?" I'm like, "Hell yeah!" So when she decided she was doing a mentorship program, I threw my hat in there, and she was not going to mentor me. She was going to give me like a single session with a bunch of information and answer all my questions. And the information that she gave me like really blew my mind because I knew that I wanted to do like a narrative specific stuff. And she was like, check out Powered by the Apocalypse, check out Blades in the Dark. Listen to this podcast episode with Daniel Kwan. And the episode of Backstory with Daniel Kwan was probably the most influential piece of information that like turned me into the designer I am now. And when that became a thing, I guess, when I had my transformative moment, I realized that I could make a game, or I could at least write like a setting for Blades that did what I wanted it to do. So like I very much thank Daniel Kwan quite a bit for doing that interview, and he talked a lot about how D&D has like some heavy colonial problems in it, and how he uses that to like teach teenagers and children, and how it's involved in history. And I was like, I don't want those things to be present in my game unless it is teaching someone something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I went, instead of going into the perfect world of these things do not exist, I said I want to make a game where everybody has to face those truths. But I didn't know what I wanted to do, how I wanted to do that at the time. So mutants did not yet exist in my brain, but I had an idea.
Nice. Excuse me.
Yeah, because that's a really hard thing to do, to make something that people want to do that's going to tell them things that they don't want to hear.
Yeah.
The fact that you've done it with mutants is a credit. That's a really cool thing that you've done. That's awesome.
Totally cheated.
I mean, I know it feels that way, but you also made a thing.
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
Like that's definitely that's a very cool thing, to have made something that people enjoy and that it's going to teach some people new ways to think about stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And especially their world, new ways to think about their world, which I think is a thing that we could all use help with from time to time.
Oh yeah.
Especially people like me who don't have to deal with most of that stuff and get a lot of that, like, because I'm cishet white guy from the middle of the country, and so from a very small place in the middle of the country. So like growing up, most of my cultural experiences where I got to do something besides like be a dude who lived in a farm town was through role-playing games, either tabletop or like on a computer or a gaming system. And so I think a lot of those lessons that I learned that expanded my world were not great ones to start with, because we didn't have the references, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like even just starting down that path was something that a lot of folks didn't do because they didn't do the D&D stuff. So I think this hobby provides an interesting outlet from my point of view, I think, to be able to do that, to put yourself in the shoes of someone else.
Yeah, it opens you up to
learn from
thinking that way, to
Mhm.
Yeah.
being more open to listening to what somebody else has to say, because you don't know them, you don't know where they've been from, they have that backstory.
Definitely.
Definitely. So you said you spent about 5 months working on mutants, give or take.
Yes.
If you could go back and tell 5 months ago, DC, something, one thing, what would it be? What would it be? What's the advice?
Probably like hold on to your underpants. that's all I would say.
Just gonna be a wild ride.
Oh yeah, this is buckle up, because a lot has happened in that 5 months. Yeah, there's nothing I wouldn't give any secrets, or I wouldn't tell 5 months ago me anything other than just like see what happens. I'm not gonna ruin the secret. There's a lot's gonna go down. I'm not gonna tell you if it's good or bad. You got to suffer, but it's gonna be interesting. I'll tell you that much.
Gonna be cool and not give yourself spoilers. I appreciate that.
Oh yeah. All of the things that happened in that 5 months helped me reflect on a lot of things. I don't think that you can make a tabletop RPG without having so much self-reflection go on during that whole process. There is nothing I could tell myself that would prepare me for any of it. I could be like, it's gonna be great, and I wouldn't believe myself. I'd be like, who the fuck is this guy?
At the other end, you damn liar.
It's gonna suck. Screw you. I'm doing it anyway.
Yeah, I'd probably either way. Yeah.
So kind of stepping away from the game in particular and more to the hobby as a whole. There's been a lot of push in a lot of places for being more inclusive, being more accepting of basically the non-cis het white dude demographic. How can the hobby do you think? How do you think that we can be better as a whole for like making people feel welcome, and what do you think we as like a podcast could do kind of for the same thing? How can we also help that goal?
Oh shit. Okay. Let me pull out my binder.
Shit, he took notes. Run.
I got a mind binder of things. No, there's a lot. I test things out all the time. I have all sorts of theories, and I talk to a lot of people. The first thing for the community at large, it's an easy answer, but it's difficult to do, is just get away from the Eurocentric fantasy. Just stop doing it.
Yeah.
And the things that stem from it as well, because every time someone goes, I want to make a like Tolkien-esque fantasy thing, it's like you're bringing all of that baggage into your world. You are saying that dwarves hate elves and orcs are right, and all this kind of stuff, and your wizards wear all white and stuff. And I'm like, no, that's we don't like that. Who does? Like, all the marginalized people make games that have themselves featured as a sinner, and to expand and to make things open for everyone, we need to start exploring all of other cultures that are available to us. And it's really simple, and it's really, really impactful. I'm playing a game of Fate where I decided I wanted my character to be Sudanese. I can't do a Sudanese accent. I probably wouldn't if I could, but all of the aspects of my character, I went and I did some research, just Wikipedia, double check with somebody if you know somebody, read an article just to be sure at the end and be like, is this fucked up? And I went, okay, so I'm gonna make their blade named after like a Sudanese blade, and like here's their family name and XYZ. And then my GM was like, okay, so I'm gonna take these things that you have and incorporate it into our world so that it mixes. And now there's a bunch of like Sudanese and Egyptian stuff going on in our game, because I decided to make my character something different. And now there's this whole little blossom of culture that happened there. People need to be doing that from the beginning and go, look, if I'm a Black American man, I'm not going to be like, here's this world I created where it is all women from China.
Probably not a good look. Probably not a good look.
Right, like I'm not going to do that. But I can go, okay, let me take whatever fantasy is my fantasy, create that world, but make sure that when I do, I go, hey, what's your fantasy look like? Or what cultures can I pull from respectfully and go, okay, there's an Indian prince. Okay, so what's the culture of surrounding like an Indian prince? And start hashing all that stuff out, so that when someone shows up in the world, they're like, oh, this doesn't feel like it's just about one thing or one person. It's a very powerful tool, but people really don't want to leave the Eurocentric fantasy only because they know nothing else.
Yeah.
It's like breaking out of D&D at first. Like, it's so hard to do, but once you actually do it, it gets easier and easier every time, it feels like.
Like, not everything has to be about killing and conquering stuff. And getting away from that concept means that you are now thinking about what you want personally, what your needs are. And it's a very intimate process. And I think that's why people, not that they don't want to do it, but they don't think about it. On a general scale of what people can do better, invite everybody. And a part of that is that a lot of people will turn you down. A lot of people will be like, I don't know, maybe. Some people will show up. But to make spaces comfortable for people of color, for other identities, honestly, it's no one's going to show up if there's no like flag or signal that says, hey, this is cool. And that flag or signal can be like, I'm on your show, that's dope. People watch this episode and they're like, oh shit, there's a black guy on there. And the black guy is like, hey, these people are listening. Like if I were to give you like one specific thing and y'all changed, and the next episode that thing was changed, even if it was this small, that's growth. You're actually listening and paying attention, because most of the time what we see in the tabletop RPG community right now is, this is the perfect parallel. It happened to somebody on Twitter the other day. Is you go to the convention and there are a bunch of panels, and you go to the diversity panel and you see all these beautiful diverse people, and then you go all the other panels and it's all white dudes and like 3 white women.
Yeah.
That's the tabletop RPG community right now. Is they're like, hey, diversity is this other thing that we have to focus on, and we're going to try and be really good at that. When in reality, it's being a part of everything. And so I think altering that state of mind is what the community at large really needs to do. There are a bunch of talented people of color out there making games. I follow a lot of them. There are a lot of them. They just don't talk because it's dangerous. And
it invites disaster sometimes.
Yes, I am popular at the moment because I am okay with someone finding me and finding me on Twitter and just ripping me shreds, as long as like other people start to feel more comfortable. Like if we like gang up and and start
eventually
like,
you get the numbers,
right? Like you can't beat us all.
Yeah, I mean pretty much.
But yeah, no, y'all are doing a good job. I think the community is getting closer. I have to say things often, but we're doing the thing.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of been one of the really big motivating factors for this whole series, is like showing people that there's more than just D&D. Like I didn't know there was other stuff out there until somebody like slapped a book down on the table and was like, "We're going to play this today." And I was like, "What the fuck?" And it was great. And like I've really not touched D&D since, because like there's way more shit out there. But I feel like, you know, kind of highlighting that it's not all white dudes making these games, and each person is putting their story onto paper for you to experience, and like that's a really powerful thing. It's a very vulnerable thing for the person who made it, and just kind of giving each person a little bit of room to talk about the stuff that motivated them and like their passions. And it feels good seeing people be passionate about stuff they care about, you know?
Yeah. I'm curious. I have a thought here, and I'm curious to see what you think of this, especially sort of dovetailing with what we just talked about, right?
Yeah.
Because in these spaces where we have that sort of push for diversity, where the rest of it is not, and whether it's, you know, tabletop RPGs or like American culture at large, right? We wind up commodifying identity, right? Like,
Yeah.
a person's identity becomes a commodity, and especially when that person's identity is in some way marginalized, and that makes them, we almost turn them into a spokesperson for that marginalization, right? For that group of marginalized people. And I think that in the tabletop community specifically, and American culture at large, if we can get to a point where we're no longer defining people by that commodity, right? It's not a black tabletop designer. It's a tabletop designer who made this game, and like the influence they pulled from are their culture. They grew up this way, right? Yeah. And so like I have a lot of issues with like capitalism and things like that, because capitalism specifically, because it creates that commodification.
Because it fucking sucks.
And I feel like inside the indie RPG space specifically, there's a lot of pushback against that. And do you feel like you're being commodified in that way?
Definitely. I'm not against it.
Okay.
The only reason is because it has to happen. It's not something that I like particularly, but at the same time, if it gets me and everybody else where we need to go, that's kind of why I'm cool with the way that things are happening on Twitter, and like my Discord community is fine. They're all like good people and stuff. But it's honestly not as bad in the tabletop RPG community as in other communities I've been in. But sometimes if someone's like, hey, very kind of openly being like, hey, I heard that like you made a game and people retweet your stuff. I want you to do this thing. And I'm like, you know nothing about, you haven't read my game, you don't know if I'm a good designer, if I'm a bad designer, none of that stuff. Like I got an offer the other day to do a job that I wasn't qualified for, and so I handed it off to another person of color who was way more qualified than me. That ability to be like, my voice carries weight is super powerful.
Yeah.
When I talk with other Black designers, like there's one person who I'm very close to. When we talk, I always tell her, if I get famous, the only thing I'm going to do is tell all of the white dudes at the top that they're fucking up. So that's it.
That is a
solid choice.
That is an admirable goal.
I can't do it now because I'll get deleted off the face of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
But when I have 10,000 Twitter followers and 7 books out, I could say, hey, I could be in a room with them and be like, hey, you know what? Come on, have a seat. Don't pour your drink. You're fucking up. And here's how to stop fucking up. We're going to fix these things. Because a lot of people up there, they want to be better, I think, genuinely. And they say, oh, I'm open to talk or all this kind of stuff. But they also don't understand the power dynamic that exists.
Yeah, for sure.
So if I have to become like a commodity and be like, oh, that's the popular Black designer of 2018, I don't care. If it gives me the power to do what I need to do, I'm gonna take it.
Okay.
It's not bad being fine with being the rising tide to float the boats to a certain extent.
Definitely. Nope, I almost read that same question that you just asked. Because I'm good at brains right now.
I guess I'll say again, kind of go with another deep shot here. So we're talking about, designing the game, playing the game. What does gaming mean to you?
Oh shit, y'all are.
I got told to prep for this with like an hour and a half worth of stuff, and so I'm just going with what I got.
I like the heavy stuff. Honestly, what it means to me, it's like being honest about what you want is what it really is. Because when you start playing a game, someone says like create your character or something like that. The point of the game for the beginning is to play out your fantasy, like whatever it is. Sometimes you don't know what it is for like a long time. But when I was a teenager, I was angsty, and so I played a rogue, and I wanted to stab people in the back and and like duck into the shadows. Like that's what I wanted. Nowadays, if someone's like create your character, I create like the me that I want to see in 8 months or something like that, like some slick badass who wears like tight suits and like
tells people they're fucking up.
Right, like sometimes like a super jovial version of myself, or like some aspect that I really want to play out, and I want other people to be able to have that experience too. Like a part of mutants that I think is super, super important and that I've seen people just like dive into, like they're starving, is mutations, and how deep mutations can go, because mutations have like two very important bits to it. One is that is how anyone can connect to a person of color, because it's visual representation. Two, there is also a similar struggle that I think intersects with the trans community, because there's a lot of stuff going on there about visual representation. To me, I was like, of course, these two groups are going to be like, okay, I look like this, and this is what I get to be, and like, I get to finally like have control over that aspect. Every single person has had that same response, like with this really deep like thing, and I feel like it happens to everyone. Like it doesn't have the same meaning to everyone, but being able to go, the way I feel inside is how I look, is a part of like what gaming is to me. The way that my character plays, the way that voices, the way they dress, like if people get to be asked the questions that they don't know they want to answer, you get to see like what their real fantasies are. And so gaming is about like being able to find those questions, like find the question that makes you find the thing you really want. And people make good ass games, so like every time I play a game, I'm like, yo, I didn't know that I wanted this, and now I do, and now I know something about myself. So like, yeah, I think that's what's most important about gaming. So fun.
Nice.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again here. Playing RPGs with these folks was like being able to play a character in like a safe place and explore crap was what let me figure out I was trans. So
Yeah,
like there's not really a lot of other places you can do that. Like sit down and over the course of months and months explore like I guess a facet of who you want to be. Like that's good shit right there.
yeah, it's amazing. Like I'm pretty sure that games made me realize I was queer too. I was like, in in a place where my character can fuck whoever they want and not be judged, who would they fuck? And it's like everybody.
All of the above.
No bad
anyone they think is cute. And I was like, wait, I would fuck anyone I think is cute. And I turned to one of my gay friends. I was like, yo, am I gay? And they're like, yeah, totally. I was like, cool.
It's just one of those light
That's pretty
bulbs
much
where it's like, oh wait, I can just do that thing.
Right.
Let's do that
It's like,
thing.
wait, yeah.
Great.
So yeah, no, tabletop RPGs are great. All games are great.
Indeed.
Let's see. We've been going for about 50 minutes now. Do you want to take a quick like water and bathroom break, and we'll come back in about 5 minutes?
Do need to top up on the smoothie, so.
Sound good? Okay.
Sounds good to me.
Hey everybody at home. We will be back shortly. Stay with us, or I guess you can go on a bathroom break too. I'll allow it this time. All right, and we are back. Hopefully you stuck around. If not, then you will be forgotten, and I'm very disappointed in you. And if you're just showing up, you're gonna be really confused. So it's all great all around. So, so why don't we start with a quick softball question? Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Yes.
Fuck. All right. Quick,
Immediate.
quick and decisive.
That's definitive. Sorry, folks, we've solved this one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
tune in
true.
next week.
Put anything between, like, okay, you know how you make a sometimes you go to like Subway or whatever.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't cut the bread all the way open.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is a sub now a hot dog?
Well, my main contention with the whole thing has been most of the time po' boys aren't cut all the way through because all the shit would leak out the other side. So
That's true.
if you're gonna call a po' boy not a sandwich, you can go to hell.
It's not the bread or the cut through that's the worrying part. It's the sausage part that's the worrying
Well,
part.
okay, then where does a hot sausage po' boy fall?
Yeah, I get hot links all the time.
Yeah, sausage
Okay.
sandwiches, sausage grinder is definitely a thing, man. Like let's calm down here.
I just think the reason that the bun is shaped the way it is what was mentioned. You put a lot of stuff on a hot dog. You don't want it falling out the other
Stability.
side.
It's good engineering.
Well,
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay, I think the real question here though is a burrito a sandwich?
No.
No, burrito's
No?
a wrap.
Burrito is a wrap.
Okay.
Is
So
a wrap not a sandwich though?
I think
No.
because a burrito doesn't have bread.
It kind of does though.
It is unleavened bread. I would give it that. However,
Mm,
Tortilla's not bread. It's tortilla.
Okay.
Like if we
Okay.
got to like naan, then I'd start be like, I don't know.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So it's about. Is it purely about thickness then? Is that's the break off?
No, it's what we classify as bread. You know, like
okay, so when I go
tortilla-
out to Indian, I use the naan and I put the chicken and the rice in the naan and eat it like a taco. Have I made a sandwich?
that's a wrap.
yeah.
But what if it
That's a
doesn't go all
wrap.
the way around? What if it stops?
It doesn't. It's open.
What if
It's
just
open
a
at the
taco?
top.
Yeah, that's a wrap.
Non-taco.
That's a slightly unwrapped wrap.
It's a non-co. Yeah, you did make a taco. It's just taco isn't locked down to any single ethnicity, so you made a taco.
Okay, that's fine. Just got it. We're making sure we're setting our parameters here.
Okay. Do y'all know what a kolache is?
No idea.
No.
Okay,
Aren't
so
they shoes?
I don't even know where to go with that. Okay, so there's places that sell kolaches here, and basically picture like a small little bread loaf, and there's food baked into it. So it's sealed.
Like a bao sort of
It's
thing.
sealed on all sides, but there's like solid sausage and cheese and stuff inside. Is that a sandwich? Does a sandwich have to be open on at least one end?
The sandwich has to be open.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
gotta be-
because that's a stromboli, man.
But
That's
what,
a bun.
It's a stromboli, it's a bao, it's a bun. There's like several different things you can call it depending on what you put inside.
Yeah.
okay.
That's a meat bun.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Sausage buns.
Chat is really great right now.
We've ignited conversation here with this.
What if I wrap bread in a tortilla? What if I wrap something in bread? And three, like, so I've just
What if I drop the portable hole into the bag of holding? Like that's what we're getting to here.
I do think the Pop-Tart question is relevant or pertinent at the very
Hit me.
least. Is a Pop-Tart a sandwich?
No.
Pop-Tart is not a sandwich. Is it a tart?
Is a tart?
That's-
Yeah.
Well, I
a
guess
tart
it
is a
also
fucked
follows-
up pie. So Pop Tart's just a fucked up pie.
well,
You're not wrong.
Doesn't the Pop-Tart because it's all the way around, right? Is a Pop-Tart a bun?
A tart is a fucked up pie.
Jesus. A tart is a pie that couldn't commit.
Wait, so if I punch a pie and it's fucked up, is it now a tart?
If a
We're
mouse,
going all the way.
if a mouse leaves a house, is it a rat? And if a rat comes inside, does it become a mouse?
Why are you talking about vermin with our food stuff? What's this?
Vermin gotta
We're
eat
just getting
too.
ready for mouse guard, that's all.
Everybody's gotta eat. rat, mouse, tart, pie.
Breathe, Aaron, please. It's for our all our good.
Oh, good. Now we're gonna start mapping out like the taxonomy of the tarts and putting them in like some sort of like food chain. Right?
Oh, I'm sorry, that chat. What the hell? A burger can be a sandwich. Yes.
Oh
Okay. In the chat, Quantum Dot said Andrew Gillis made the argument to me in person.
no. That a human spine is a donut.
How? I guess because it's wrapped around the nerve.
Yeah. If you're looking at it cross-sectionally, I can buy that, actually.
I mean,
He's a
technically,
very smart person.
The term is bonut. Thank you.
Damn it!
Well, the best
Wait,
part is the
no, that's a-
jelly-filled donut if you cut it while it's still, like, attached.
Oh no.
My head hurts, y'all.
It is jelly filled.
Oh.
Spinal fluid is the jelly.
Oh, I hate that you're right.
Wow. Okay.
I got 3 dice in derailment, you guys.
So you know what though? I in my head the conversation went. You know that shit donut, man. Your spine's a donut.
Whoa, man, you're freaking me out. Oh, okay.
Is a ravioli a tart?
God damn it, Garrett!
Yeah, it's a meat tart, right? Or it's like a cheese tart, maybe?
I mean,
it's like a
I thought it'd be more like a dumpling, but
that's a good point.
It is. Okay. If you get 2 pizzas and you put them toppings together, is that a sandwich? And if you get 2 pizzas and put them bottoms together, why?
first of all, we have a word for the first one. It's called Chicago style, damn it.
Yeah, the first. Well, okay, so Chicago style pizza is a casserole.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's a casserole.
But there are like the stuffed pizza version where you just take 2 pizzas and you put them on top of each other.
That's a pizza sandwich.
That's a pizza sandwich. So
Yeah.
that counts as bread, but a friggin' tortilla doesn't.
Because that is bread. A tortilla's tortilla. Tortilla's in its own category.
I know I'm side-eyeing it too, because the classifications here are...
Oh.
Okay. So
I feel like the like committee is going to be debating this one for.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's been said in chat that the first one with the 2 pizzas toppings touching is just a weak calzone. Now, if you put pizza rolls in between, is it then a sandwich?
That's calzoneception.
Oh shit! You have to put.
It's a calzone with tarts in it.
Wait, is it? Also dumplings, thank you.
With ravioli.
It's a tart pizza.
No, is pizza a tart? That's the question.
Is a bagel bite an open faced pizza sandwich?
Well, pizza is a pie, right? It's a pizza pie, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
So how far do we have to get? Like, are bagel pizzas pizza tarts? Like, how far do we have to go afield to make a pizza tart? Like those microwavable individual deep dish, are those pizza tart?
No, a pizza tart is a hot pocket.
Oh, nailed it. I think we're cracking this one wide open. Yeah.
Jeez, just getting at it.
Yeah.
So back to game design.
Oh.
You got something, Matt?
Yeah, I was just gonna kind of jog it back. Actually, we were talking about the mutant powers and stuff, so that actually sank rather nicely into one of my other questions. This one's lighter, I promise. What is your favorite mutant power? And then the follow-up: how would you use it to smash the system?
Like, wait, mutant power that I made, or
Any
like,
mutant power.
generally?
I'm talking. Just run the gamut. I know. Give you a bit of space to work with.
Let me. How would I use it to smash the system? Okay, so teleportation is my personal favorite power, but that's because it's corny as hell, but with great power comes great responsibility.
Mhm.
If you have the ability to do something, you are the superhuman. You have to go out and use that power for good, because you're gonna walk down the street and see somebody in a burning building, and if you can get them out, like, not do anything, no, you're an asshole. So, teleportation gives you the least amount of responsibility and the smallest chance of getting caught.
Mhm.
Because if I was a teleporter right now, I could be like, haha, I can teleport, and nobody could ever get me.
Suddenly you're on camera behind me. I'm like, what?
Teleportation using to smash the system, that one's not so good. There's not much you could do. I could steal all the officially signed papers in the world and show them to the UN, and people would still be idiots. Like, yeah,
I mean, you could teleport into like a server room and screw that up. You know, break stock exchanges that way, that sort of thing.
yeah. I mean,
you
I could
can
break
get creative
stuff.
with it.
Yeah. It'd be destructive.
The one that would like smash the system, a power that could, you just have to have like, I don't know, the power to make people feel feelings, empathy.
Being an empath actually is feeling like a stronger choice by the day, I feel like.
That's the greatest power that you can have, is just be like, make everyone feel the feelings of everyone else. And everyone would cry for about a week.
Oh, yeah.
And then we'd be fine. We'd be a great society.
Would your superhero name be the Empathizer?
The Empathizer? No, I'd have to make it I'm always for the like short and sweet. If my power was empathy, it would be no, I can't think of a cool one.
You're fucking up, man. You show up, you go, boom, you're fucking up, and all of a sudden they feel why they're fucking up.
That's one of my powers. Fucking up. You're like, oh no, I am fucking up.
Can you imagine being able to fly into a room, finger gun feelings at somebody, and then fly out of the room?
There's like, oh no, I've been fucking up for so long.
That was the Jean Grey movie we never got and should have. Damn it. But
Ash says, just call yourself Feels.
Oh, you know what? You know what? I would call myself Man of Feels.
Oh.
I'm going to take contempt on that one.
And that way, they're like, what? And you're like, it's got layers. Think about it. And then you just like walk out of the room. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Follow-up question. Is Magneto right?
110%. Let me get my other binder.
I see you brought receipts to this interview.
Is this where I load up the PowerPoint presentation for the people on stream? Mm-hmm. Okay. You got the clicker, right?
Pull out my thing. You look here. Magneto is so right. The reason in my Discord channel, my role is Magneto is right. Because people forget that like the only reason that Magneto is a villain is because they chose for him to be a villain. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, he said a ton of shit that was completely honest. And being in a space where, I mean, being created in like the 1970s or like late 1960s or whatever, going, hey, I experienced Nazi Germany, and I know how this ends. They tried to kill me for being Jewish. Now I can destroy the planet. I have a feeling that this may repeat. And then now that we live in 2018, Magneto was so right.
Mm-hmm. We should have listened when we had the chance.
Exactly. There were a lot of times, there are so many times in like the comics and stuff. I'm not a huge comic book reader, and X-Men is like its own thing. I used to say there's Marvel, DC, and X-Men.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, truly.
A lot of the stories that I would like read over and go on wikis and stuff. So Magneto was like, I just want to get away from all y'all crazy people or wild motherfuckers trying to do stuff.
Your lazy teen dramas.
Let's for the safety of everyone, try and figure things out at a better pace. So we're gonna go live on Super Utopia Island, and y'all can have like planet Earth or whatever. I don't believe in segregation the way that people believe in segregation. But Magneto was partially built off of Malcolm X, and the thing that I hate this so much, just like when people say anything about Martin Luther King. When Malcolm X was like, hey, you should invest in your local community. And all of these people who are suffering, make sure that we have our own like cycle of economy going on. And people are like, segregation, that's what you mean? I'm just like, and he's like, kinda, I get like support local businesses. Like,
yeah,
like that in itself.
I guess isolationism? Question mark?
Well,
right. Like he's like, if you want to take it there, I guess. But Magneto was kind of the same thing. He's like, we need to figure our stuff out. And then if y'all are not trying to kill us, we can talk. Is the question mark. And that's how I treat everything. That's how that's what community is. That's to have all of the people around you come together, talk to each other, figure things out about ourselves and about our situations, and then present that to everyone else and have a support system. If you happen to have superpowers and you want to kill me, maybe I can stop you. But I'm gonna close with abolish ICE. Magneto was right.
Strong.
Just wait for Magneto to take down one of those camps. Get everybody to a safe distance was Magneto's thing. And that's like, they made him do some really crazy supervillain shit occasionally, but it never made sense. It was always like, let's go somewhere they aren't, so they're not trying to kill us right now, and figure this shit out.
Like up until he did something super villainish, it was like, yeah, okay, this is fine. What's the problem?
Like, can you even be mad at somebody who experienced the Holocaust being like a little reactionary?
No.
Can you?
No.
Like, I'd be like, oh, Magneto is trying to turn everybody into a mutant. Someone's like, like he experienced the Holocaust. I was like, oh, he has emotional damage. Like, I can't be mad. I was like,
yeah.
Like,
maybe if someone tried to sit down and talk to him, things would be a little different. Stop trying to shoot the guy, Plus, it doesn't work. Bad idea.
Luke says...
Sorry. Well, how do you not try to empathize with the Holocaust when we got people in the New York Times trying to empathize with Nazis, right? Like, how do you make that turn? Don't
levels.
Right?
Just turn the heat up on the frog a little bit every time.
Luke said Magneto is Malcolm X and the real Martin Luther King, and Professor X is the white liberal imagining of Martin Luther King.
Yes.
And even then, he's still a shitbag.
Yeah, he's pretty grabby.
Well, also like crazy rich and powerful and untouchable, which was like the weirdest depiction of Martin Luther King imaginable, right? Like, I don't know. That whole allegory never really. Once I started doing some reading, I was a huge X-Men fan growing up, right? And so like coming up, I like internalized that idea that okay, it's Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, and then once I got like any education at all about how that whole thing went down, I'm like, that doesn't hold up at all. Wow, Stanley, you're just like the super white dude writing this shit and don't even know what the fuck. It's really crazy.
You're fucking up.
You know how many people I have? if I became Dr. Manhattan today, I would just go, "You're fucking up. You're fucking up." I would multiply myself so I could do it all at once, and you would hear this chorus around the earth.
That would be amazing, and you'd be doing good work.
Thank you.
Okay. So, do you think that we, as a hobby or an industry, should maybe re-examine like assumptions about what like a default player character is? There's kind of a lot of built-in assumptions these days. There's a lot of ableism and kind of whitewashing, and this is the optimal thing to do. Do you think there's that should be re-evaluated these days, especially, I mean, given the fact that we should be celebrating diversity and differently abled people, and and all that kind of stuff.
Yes. Next question. I'm just
Cool.
kidding. No, I've had this conversation with a bunch of people that there are a lot of really good games out there that still just fall back and go, oh, I'm gonna put heritage and race and some options by, and just like they don't know what to do. Where it's like, if you straight up just talk to people, one of my favorite things that I love, and I see like white dudes do it a lot. So here's the cookie. Just being like, my character is brown, and I'm like, there you go. That's all. Just put brown and move on to the next bit, because that's it. Like,
so is brown the class, or is that one of your stat mods, or where's it go on the sheet?
I'm like, just do that. Don't put, here's my race, here are all the feats that I get because my I don't know, like a bunch of crap like that. It's like, no, just don't do any of that. Stop tying things to race. Like, we're all like, oh well, we need to make sure that everyone is covered, so I need to put down that, are you a black woman? And it's like this and that. It's like, no, just let people make the decision. If it's much more important to have a setting that is racially diverse, so that when somebody goes, yo, I live in this place, and you describe what the people look like and what the setting is like, now someone gets to choose. And if you put that on the table and go, what does your character look like? That's it. Just ask that question. People will talk about all of it. It's like, you don't need to go, are they a woman? Are they a man? Are they black, white, Asian, or whatever? People mostly come up with that stuff in their own head. And if you really want to, the challenge there comes from, if your setting is diverse and a person goes, oh, well, since you didn't ask, I'm just going to be a white dude, then that person's going to have a different experience in that setting than other people. Because now they have othered themselves in a way that they didn't understand. If it's like, everyone in this area is dark brown and the sun is out all the time and we're in fucking Egypt, and someone's like, I'm a pale vampire thing, and it's like, oh, you're gonna have a very different experience when everyone's like, yo, you're pale as hell. That means you don't go outside. You're probably not connected in this culture in some way. It's going to affect their character to some degree. So it's like, yeah, they can do that if they want to. Making it so that people are available to do that, to see the setting and then they react from that setting, is more important than having a list of going like, how do you like? I actually like presentation. If you were just like, how do you present yourself? It's like such a deep question. And people will take that in a lot of different ways. So like, that's probably the best thing. Just fuck all those other things and just put presentation. But yeah, setting is much more important than establishing race and background and heritage. Yeah. Current games still, they try, but they probably did not talk to a person of color or like a marginalized background about it.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of that winds up feeling like baby steps, I think. Like, let's present these as options so people think about them, especially like tables full of cishet white dudes. Like, let's present these as options so like these bros know this is a thing that they can do, and maybe that'll catch some eyes. But yeah, that's a good point that you made there. Actually, that sort of dovetails into a question that I had that formulated sort of earlier. Was it earlier this week or just over the weekend? There was that big conversation that was sort of had in multiple places about Cyberpunk 2077 and the depiction of cyberware and body modification and like losing your essence and therefore value as a person because of it and all these things, right?
Yeah.
And the folks that were reacting to that as an ableist concept, which it totally is. Like, it totally is like, oh, you need a robo leg, like, to walk like folks do. Some like I just
Like an abled person.
Yeah, like I just walked myself into it there because I'm not very good at this. But like I, as a person growing up playing cyberpunk role-playing games, I never conceptualized it that way, because to me it was like a balancing and or limiting concept of you have this much essence to spend or this much humanity to spend on your cyber stuff, because we assume that you all start at baseline, a certain baseline of able-bodiedness. And so everything that you put on yourself takes you above that, whereas that's not the case for actual people actually living their actual lives and looking to see themselves reflected in the game. So to me, that sort of ableism inside that idea of that cyberware is ableist was a brand new concept to me, or the way that it was done was ableist. And so that was very interesting to watch the community sort of react to that. And people I really respected that had a lot to say about that. And it was very, very cool to get to learn that from folks. I guess I just have a question there. Are there things like that you've seen in other RPGs? I mean, we just talked about race and stuff, but are there nested mechanics that we don't think about often enough, as far as what it says about people or the setting or like assumptions we make about things?
Yes. There's a lot of shit. Alignment. Fuck alignment. Because that kind of thing is made to say, here's what good and evil look like, and now we can just label an entire race or species just evil. And then that's the end of oh, they're evil. You can kill them now. That's that's
oh,
it.
Hey, racism! There you are, buddy.
Yeah. All the stuff we talked about prior, adding in like all those features, just unnecessary. I don't know about like games in general, like super specific mechanics outside of those that I really don't like. I think it really just ties back into a lack of knowledge and experience. It's like mechanically, most things are pretty sound that I can think of off the top of my head, but it's stuff that's baked into like settings and violence and how violence is traditionally treated. That there's okay, well, I guess this comes into a mechanic, but like leveling up is like I played a lot of RPGs that are video games. I love leveling up. It's so good. If I level up in something in my brain from like when I was 3 years old, it's like hell yeah.
The numbers get higher.
Yeah, like
that's why
numbers.
It's just nice.
That's why clicker games are a thing. The numbers get higher.
Yeah, it's so nice. But when you have a level up system that allows you to just gain more power, that's a problem. A lot of the time, if you get to a point where your goal is to become stronger in order to be able to kill more things and have more control, not even over yourself, because you already have control over yourself.
Yeah.
You get to a point where you're just imposing your will on other things. And that's problematic. And it's just, I love doing it. Not gonna lie, it's fun as hell. If I'm level 50 in a video game and I can kill a god, I'm like, yeah, this is great. Now I rule the world. But at the same time, you have to be aware that it's like, okay, that's that. But that's most of our fantasies. They're power fantasies, and there are other kinds. So I guess leveling up, this sick, beautiful bastard. That's why I like leveling up in Blades, because there's no number. You get more abilities that are already there. It doesn't like present a new thing to you, and it's like, haha, and they don't usually like stack to where it's like, now I have a more powerful version of the thing I already had. They're situational, and they're more, I guess, like powered by the Apocalypse games in general.
It's a lot of like utility powers and stuff.
Yeah.
And usually Powered by the Apocalypse is built with a shelf life, so that once you get to a certain point of progression, you're encouraged to let that character sunset to a certain extent. Versus
because it's more about experience and how experience gives you more perspective and more skill, rather than going, now that I am level 2, I can kill better. And sometimes that's a part of experience too. Sometimes you can kill better. I'm beefy, I could kill better. But like, not gonna, because there's a lot of other way cool shit to do that doesn't involve violence. Like fucking making video games, tabletop RPGs, whatever it is.
Whatever was I made.
Whatever the hell I made, I don't know.
You said you came out of the haze, it just had this thing in
It's one of those analog video games you use with dice and shit, I think.
So be like, hey, you make mutants in the night? What the fuck is a mutant in the night, man? I just got out of bed.
Okay, so you get a mutant. You see the mutant during the daytime, but now it's dark. And have a good day.
I like it.
Thanks for coming to my TikTok.
Okay, so talking about like exerting your will, how skeevy are mind control spells, and why should they be gone forever, please?
Oh, jeez. I feel like there was a direction to that question. No. So that's a really interesting question, because in mutants, there is no mind control, but there is deleting memories and there's like illusionary stuff. But the reason that mind control is bad is because it's one-sided. When I made the chopper, which people really like. I think the most liked one is the Prestige that deals with illusion and stuff. But the chopper's probably like second, maybe tied. And what's interesting about the chopper is that when you delete or erase somebody's memories, you erase your own as well. So it's it's invasive to everyone and yourself. So there isn't this like, I can manipulate what's in your head and like make you do things. It's like, no, it's like, I can delete shit, but it's
there's an alchemy to it, pretty much.
Yeah, there's a balance. One ability you have is you can delete a period of time from someone's mind, but it has to be a shared memory, and you lose that memory as well. So stuff can happen there. It could be, I don't know, like it could get weird. But there was someone in my Discord who like I came up with that ability, and they're like, "Oh, this person has to keep a journal." I was like, "Yo, I wouldn't even think of that. Like, you have to write everything down because you can you're like, should I delete the last 5 minutes? What did I just do?" Oh yeah, okay. But like, mind control is to exert your will over someone else, and that's really just like being a DM who fudges their roles. And that to me brings up like weird like harassment vibes. I don't like that. Everything that someone does should have like an effect.
Yeah.
Like there has to be like it is like alchemy, I guess. Like I like if you do something, there is a price, so that no one's just getting away with shit, you know?
Yeah.
It's reality. Like, it's a simulation of reality.
That's how things should work, basically.
Yeah. If there was a mind control ability, this is just me spitballing off the top of my head. If you got to go and control the physical body of someone else, I think like as nasty as that is, you would be like completely vulnerable to suggestion during the whole time. Like if you're gonna be a nasty motherfucker, then like your price is that now someone gets to tell you to do whatever the hell while you're mind controlling Jimmy over there. Like,
God, it's like the seediest astral projections.
Right,
So
like,
gross.
I don't know.
That kind of feels like an analysis of kind of overarching power structures in general. Like, say, you know, you're some shithead wizard, you can mind control people with no consequence. You're up high, you're not an oppressed person, whereas like life for somebody who's marginalized, nothing is free. You have to fight for everything, and everything costs stuff. Whereas like, you know, for these people who they don't have to worry about all those things, it seems like, oh, there's no cost to this, I can just exert my will over people. That's
so to bring that brain and galaxy brain it, that's why Mutants in the Night exists in the way it does, because in that setting you do have almost limitless power. Maybe I haven't play tested that far, but pretty much no one can really stop you. But the consequence of all of the things that you do isn't direct. It isn't just that, like, oh, you're a person who has power now? Cool. Your community's still marginalized. Mutants are still marginalized. These people still exist in mutant safe zones. You can go around and you can destroy a whole city if you want to. It does not change the fact that people are in that situation, and there's a price to pay for the things that you do. Mutants have consequences to their actions. Both, there is some like physical and mechanical work there, but there's another side of the mechanics where the more shit you do, the more that comes back to the community around you, not you directly. And because that's a thing, that's a parallel to someone who is privileged makes a game where you go around getting away with shit and you go off scot-free because they can live that life. I can't live that life. So I had to make a game where you can go around, like, I am technically amassing power on Twitter and I have a community and all this kind of shit. It's like, it's a drop in the bucket. I could go around doing, I don't know, doing panels and saying a bunch of shit, but like every time I go out there and do something, that puts me in a situation where now I could be a target for something. My community could be a target for something. People that surround themselves by me. So it's a direct parallel. Like this is some real life shit that, like, when you play the game, I want people to eventually down the line be like, oh damn, I didn't realize that, like, this is what life could be like for some people. It doesn't matter if you're LeBron fucking James. You can make all the money in the world. Someone can still, like, take all that away from you. They could still harass you or whatever. They could be racist. So.
Yeah, one of the things when I first saw Mutants in the Night was a thing, and then I got to read it and read through it, and the comic book character that was actually going through my head the whole time was Luke Cage. As I came up reading Heroes for Hire and Luke Cage stuff, and like
he's in the game.
Yeah, he is. He really.
Yeah.
I played a middle-aged Latina Luke Cage actually when we rolled. Yeah, but like doesn't matter how strong you are, doesn't matter how tough you are, doesn't matter what you can do. This situation is outside the reach of your powers. You cannot make this whole thing better. So what can you do? How can you find a way to make this worth it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's the question that, like, I wanted to ask. So, because, like, you picked up a pillar of a... Okay, he rolled double crits, and there were, like, 5 people with heavy automatic weapons shooting at this woman. And he rolled double crits, and he picks up this pillar and just smashes it over all of them. Earlier, she kicked a car into a person. Just whoosh. That person did not get back up.
Was the car okay?
No.
Car hits a person. The car bed's still gonna buckle a bit there.
It's like all that stuff. You have these moments of extreme power, and you're like, "Oh, I feel so good about these things that I can do." And you go home, and it's like, "Damn, I didn't do anything."
Mm-hmm.
All of these problems still exist. It's a constant battle. You have to to find other ways to make things happen or to keep fighting. And even if you might not see the end, like it's gonna keep going. Like this might be a bad thing, but Mutants has no resolution. There's like you're gonna play it until you get tired of it and you feel bad. That's probably it.
That was somebody Mutants Night versus Blades in the Dark, and sort of like the parallels and the differences. And one of the ideas that I walked away from the conversation was that they felt that Mutants in the Night was more hopeful of a game. It was a more upbeat style game than Blades in the Dark, which ran like completely. Is definitely not a thing that I would take from the text or like the concept of the game, because in Blaze in the Dark you can theoretically elevate yourself. You can rise to a rank 4, or you can get those 40 coin and retire. You can get out of the game. You can't do that in Mutants. Like you're still a mutant. No matter how much you do, you're still a mutant. Yeah.
There's this aspect to the game where it's still a dark game technically, but I just pace it out because the lesson to learn is something that you can learn at any point. But I change vices so that they're more about self-care than they are about like falling into some bad shit. And the reason that is because when people go out and they indulge in whatever it is in reality, it's stuff that makes you feel good. It's stuff that you spend time with community and you build relationships, and it refreshes you because you're going out and you're meeting with people who are doing their own struggle. Like every single person knows the experience of having a really shitty day and then meeting up with like a coworker or a friend who also had a shitty day, and y'all just go and you have a drink or you go eat and you're just like, hey, isn't life shitty? And they're like, yeah. And you feel way better just because someone understands you. Like they're coming from that same place. And that's what vices are in this game, where you can take a close friend who's an NPC and have a good time, and people think of the coolest stuff because I made them more loose, where your vice is about what it makes you feel specifically rather than what you are doing. So two people can be at a party for two separate reasons. And so people fill in that blank and they go, oh, so my vice is like doing me, and I want to spend some time by myself. How do I do that, and how do I unwind? I'm reading books, I'm writing an article or blogging, and that way they put themselves in it and kind of get an extra level of like connection there. So every time I hear people talking about doing vices, I feel like I can hear them, like the actual players, de-stress slightly. They're like, I want to do this fun thing. Like, so that's why people feel real hopeful, because it kind of is. At the end of the day, you get to hang out with like your pals, and you're like, yeah, I just beat the shit out of somebody. And I know it doesn't solve anything, but damn, did it feel good. Like,
I just killed like 6 KKK members.
Hey, Zach.
Yeah.
Proud of you.
Thank you.
People need that.
I thought that was just like national service, but that's me.
That's one of the really satisfying things about games like Wolfenstein and the crap that just came out, where it's like, oh, so I'm some unstoppable superpower killing machine, and there's just like this wave of Nazis that I get to deal with in whatever way I see fit.
I wanted to like you, Colossus.
That's why, like, I knew that if I was going to have a game that had violence in it, if it's going to have colonialism in it, if it's going to have all the issues that I don't like about games, it's going to comment on them, and it's going to make it so that violence is something in the game where, yeah, you can kill 7 Nazis, 6 Nazis, sure, go ahead. It'll make you feel good. That's what matters. You have more heat, and heat leads to certain situations, like specific situations in Mutants. That's gonna put you in a tougher situation. But like, the question of is that worth it to you is still in your own hands. You can still be completely nonviolent. You can decide to use powers that aren't focused in that way, or you can use your powers in a different way. But all of the factors of a marginalized life are put in front of you, and that's why one of the XP triggers that I might have to edit is like, do you think that, like, was there a time where you absolutely had to use your power? And you have to answer that question. And it's, since it's XP, like, it's on you. You get to decide. Some people have been like, yo, I don't like this question because I don't know. I there's always another way or something, and I'm like,
Then
maybe I'm
another way.
into
Find
that.
it.
Maybe that's what I wanted. Like, whether that's helpful to a player or not, I don't know. But I kind of want to fuck with people, so.
No, I like that. Actually.
Yeah, I like the XP triggers for things you want people, especially at the end, and with the blade style XP triggers, where it's like, okay, so what do you think about what just happens? I like that. I like that, like using that as an opportunity to have them like critically reflect on their performance and their effects. I will say that as we were having that whole fight scene go down, in my head I was like, the blowback from this is going to be fucking crazy, right? Because we were taking, like, there are so many dead non-mutants. Like, we messed up so many dudes so bad. And, like, what are we going to do with them? The people knew they were coming here. Like, somebody knew they were coming here. We have bodies to get rid of now. Like, I was going down, like, the line, like, and if they find out this happens, like, bad shit. Like, really bad shit.
Mutant town gets cleared out, basically.
Next session would have been wild.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone's getting carded. Everything shuts down at 5 p.m. Nobody out. Yeah, all that stuff. No, it would have been
curfews and mutant registration is.
You send the game.
Oh yeah,
right.
I need to play this at some point. Like, we have to find a time where schedules align and make this happen.
So actually, this kind of is a question I had. So you're still doing the testing, but during the testing, have the players done something that surprised you or like played the game in a way you didn't expect? And how did you react on that?
Every single time. There's not been a time where I was not surprised. There are only 5 different power sheets to choose from, and each one of them has 3 abilities to start with, and then when you level up, like, you can get more. But because you can choose, like, your presentation and everything, people like to incorporate their presentation with how they use their power a lot. So, people will be like, "Oh, I use what's a good one? The World Breaker, which is super strength."
Okay.
It's one of the basic powers that it's like, yo, if you just want to smash, I'm gonna give you the power to smash. But some people, I don't think anyone's made like a beefy character yet. People are always like, I'm gonna be a lean. Like, sometimes, like, I'll have scales. Someone made it so that, like, swords pop out of their body. And I'm like, that doesn't affect the mechanics? Sure. Like, there's someone who took the Prestige, which is like the illusionary class, and they made their entire body like a Rorschach test. And so it's like, oh, I made it so that they look into this particular spiral of something, and it made this illusion. And like, I don't know, people think of all sorts of stuff. Like, I spent 5 months going, I'm gonna think of like every possible configuration I possibly could, and someone's like, I have this idea. And I went, I never in my life. And it's every single time. My friend Mikey, who's in the chat, made a Ninja Turtle, and off of the silence, and it's just like, yeah, I'm gonna make this character a Ninja Turtle. They have a turtle-like mutation. They do not make sound when they move, and I went from there. I was like, okay, I wouldn't have seen that coming, but it happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta turret the bad guys, you know? Show them his business. Show 'em who's boss, who's business. I'm done.
Who's business? Who's business?
Show 'em who's business as the boss.
Business turd. So, do you have like any sources of inspiration within arm's reach of you?
Like right now, grab something.
We can expand that radius to like in the room if you want.
What's in my house?
If you don't, that's also acceptable. Like if you're like,
I got some
it's like,
cigarettes.
there you go. There you go.
I got a remote control. Water is very important.
Hydration is inspiring.
Okay. So there's nothing inspiring like in my house. Probably no. All of the stuff is like media. I am I absorb so much media. Like some people, if I wasn't very, very specific in trying to make sure that I am as conscious as possible about what I'm consuming, I would probably have an unhealthy addiction to media. I'm very, very conscious of what I'm eating mentally, but I'm eating a lot all the time because it's so good. There's so much potential stuff out there that Mutants is made of like 1,000 things, but I can name almost all of them because it's so specific. Anime, huge boon. I think that if you make tabletop RPGs, you need to watch anime, hands down. Like maybe ask somebody what to watch because there's a lot of bad stuff out there. But for like powers and abilities, One Piece was like a huge source of inspiration because they take really weird abilities and are like, here's all the creative ways that you can use them. And being able to pick up strange things or unique things and turn that into an ability is something that was really special about that anime in particular. So even though there's nothing else related, that is what got me in the mindset of thinking, okay, if someone can control the sound around them, what abilities can I make that are like unique and specific and have a loss and a gain? And I don't know, there's like the Warriors, huge influence. The whole look, the feel, the like sort of like horror yet like punk urban. The Warriors. There's some problematic stuff if you go watch that movie. It's kind of it's old. It's old.
Come out to play, yay.
That whole film, imagine all of them with powers, and that's my game right there.
Oh shit.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Day one pre-bought sold.
I can dig it.
But yeah, there are a bunch of things in media. Lots of music has influenced that game. Deltron 3030, that whole album, I listen to that a lot. MF Doom is like the whole game as well.
Okay, I can see that.
I listen to, okay, I've never told anybody this, so this is exclusive, okay?
Somebody clip it, quick.
The last day I was working on Mutants, there was 6 hours, and I use Infinite Looper a lot because sometimes a song will get me in a certain mood.
Oh, yeah.
Let's do that. For some reason, I listened, what is the name of the song? Let me look this shit up, because it's in my history. It's the end of Ava. What is this? Oh, there it is. Calm Suser Todd. I didn't say it right. But that song, I listened to it for 6 hours on repeat, sitting on my computer. When I left, it was still playing. When I came back, it was playing. I don't know why I listened to that song for so long. It is not related thematically or anything. but like sometimes you just get the groove. Things just give you something. So I made a playlist for Mutants. There's a lot of songs on there that are very similar to what I'm feeling. Yeah, I could talk about influences forever. So
yeah, that was one of the fun things we had when we talked to John Hart about making blades, and his thing was just immerse yourself, like find the thing that inspires you and that makes the thing that is the thing that you want to make on some level, and just like dive in and don't come back out until you did something. And sounds like you have a similar philosophy.
Shit. It always feels good to find out that I am aligned with people who make good games. And I'm like, maybe my game is actually good.
I'm not sure if you know this or not. Based on the things that I've read and stuff that I've heard from Zach, you kind of make good games. So, shh.
It's definitely a fun game.
I believe you.
I know it's hard to believe sometimes.
I can see.
I'm trying. That's me trying.
I totally get it.
Willing myself to believe.
Accepting compliments is hard and it sucks, but listen, damn it.
All right.
I'm not going to exert my will. I'm sorry. I apologize.
No, you just have to let somebody else compliment you, which we already did earlier. So this is kind of your paying it forward on it.
I did it. I'm taking it. It's in there.
Okay, so while we've got you here, are there anybody else's games that you've been playing or reading or anything like that that you want to plug because you think they're awesome as shit?
Hell yeah. Dang, there's actually a good number. First, Mad Pirot, Allie. Her games are amazing. I honestly, every time I think about her games, I go like, damn, y'all are playing my game, but you really should be playing her because they're really good. The game that I played of hers recently was Spitfire and Straight Lace. That game is so good, and it was so fun. It's like a detective drama, or it doesn't even have to be a drama. You can like choose the genre, and you have these different scenes where you're picking up like evidence, and you have to kind of convince this detective with an opposing like viewer style from you that your viewer style is better. And there's so much to like banter over, and you get to make this really fun and creative world and crack jokes. Damn, so good. Allie is a freaking amazing designer. And then there's Misbehavin' that she also wrote. That is a Blades hack set in Prohibition era, like 1920s. And there's still like magic and demons and stuff. And oof, I've been having a lot of fun with that. I haven't played any of Ash's games besides Splintering Wheel, but I think Splintering Wheel is... I've played Dungeon World and I've played Splintering Wheel. I think Splintering Wheel is amazing. And it is super, super, super important to, if you are a tabletop player or designer, to play one of Ash's games. She's really smart. And there's like some voodoo magic going on there that I don't understand. But...
She also like picks like really, really awesome groups of people who work super well together, and it's like it doesn't even become you playing an RPG. It's sort of this weird like flow thing that just sort of happens, and then like 4 hours passed and you're like, oh shit, all right, cool, I want to do this again, please let me back in.
You come out of the collective and you're like, no, I need that.
It's straight up some weird voodoo magic shit that I don't understand. Ash doesn't make games. Ash makes experiences. And I have not played any of Luke's games yet, but as a designer reading Luke's work, games from the Wildwood, Luke has given me some of the greatest ideas. Luke actually pretty much wrote the powers of the Prestige with very minor editing from me, which is like a whole thing, because a lot of people don't understand like my goals as a designer when I was like working on Mutants, and Luke was just like, "Oh, here's a bunch of stuff," because I totally get it. I'm like, oh, jeez. So they're pretty magical. Their games, I really want to play Shipwreckers because ships are also awesome. But yeah, that would be the 3 designers with lots of great games to play.
Rad. Please, excuse me. I think that might be getting close to the end of all of our questions. Anybody else have any kind of last things you wanted to throw out there?
Hit me with it.
Well, like last things.
I was gonna say, we've got a few things left.
Fire away.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, like the discussion. I think there's, based on the amount of talking that's been done, both by you and with other folks around about the cyberpunk genre and like how it's a thing that we're all discussing now for a very specific reason, but how it's also a thing that is like rife with possibility and also potential stumbling blocks, right? Is that a genre you have any interest in designing at all, or have you played cyberpunk stuff? Is it a thing that you're specifically interested in, or is it just like a point of conversation that we had, right?
That is a good question, because it's possible. That's how I feel about it. Cyberpunk has never interested me as a gamer. Aesthetically, oof, can't beat it. Unless you're doing like some trippy psychological movie or something, not much beats Cyberpunk. But because Cyberpunk has so many failures on top of just a wellspring of possibility, that's the kind of place where that interests me.
Okay.
And also because people have so many conceptions about what cyberpunk is and like what it must be. And when people have those kind of conceptions, I'm like, I kind of want to push you on that. So it's possible in the future. If something strikes me, like there has to be a certain story that I want to tell, then I might dip into cyberpunk and piss a lot of people off.
Excellent.
We have one of our previous interviewees, Fraser Simons, who's doing Hack the Planet, which is another Forged in the Dark Knight. He is very well read and very invested in the genre of cyberpunk, as is Kira Magron, who we had on as well, who's making some really interesting non-violent cyberpunk stuff over with her. And to hear them talk about cyberpunk is really interesting to me, because it's like their conception of cyberpunk blows my mind, because I think of cyberpunk as Blade Runner cyberpunk, and like Fraser, when I dropped like, this is what I know about cyberpunk in that interview, and then he spent like half an hour schooling me on how that was like only the various beginnings of cyberpunk, and then it kept going, and like, here's this thing that you need to know, you need to read this and this and this, and like it's really interesting to me the conceptions that people have of cyberpunk specifically, and I don't know why it got like this weird. It has a very, very like broad cultural penetration, but not a very deep one in a really weird way. So it's always, especially with this talk on Cyberpunk 2077, it's interesting to me the opinions I'm seeing about it and like the explorations of it, because like it's coming from everywhere. Everybody's got things to say about that game.
Yeah. And what really interests me about it is that you need people like Fraser and Kira to exist. That's important. But you also need people like me who don't give a crap about that stuff. They're both important, because all I care about in cyberpunk comes down to what my experience with society cares about in cyberpunk. So that will be the focus. If I create something, that will be the focus of it. It won't have all of the the book read like deep things going on. It would straight up just be like, how would this affect the people I know, the communities that I'm aware of, and my own personal experiences, and fuck over capitalism. That'd be it. And I think that having that perspective is important when you're creating a product for the masses, and not like cyberpunk specialists, which is why I don't like studying things too deeply anyways. Once you get in deep, like, you stop being able to see like what people like about it. You have to know what you like about something, but you also have to know what people like about something. That's why like Mutants is about something, but it's also about just being fucking cool. You gotta you gotta give people what they want, especially if you want to teach them something. So.
Yeah, you gotta give them a reason to play the game in the first place, right? Like, you gotta give them
that sweet hook.
Yeah.
Crush Nazis with a pillar gets them in the door, and then you're like, "Hey, oppression sucks," and they're like, "Oh shit, it does."
It does.
Yeah, exactly.
Huh. There's some. Sorry, no.
No, just let it out. Just let it out.
We already had the Pop-Tarts as a discussion.
It was sort of just this like kind of metaphor. I was trying to figure out the words for. It's like, topple the pillars of oppression or something like that, and you kind of literally did that.
Yeah.
I mean, it still was there.
Use the pillars of oppression to kill Nazis.
that pillar wasn't oppressing anybody. Let's not pillar, right? That pillar was just doing that pillar's thing, and wound up doing a service for humanity. But
it was supporting the building, and then it supported your political statement.
Exactly.
See, to me, that just makes me think about, okay, how do we apply that sort of thing to reset the clock?
Yeah. Y'all are lovely.
You too. First off, we would love to have you back at some point for either to play a game or like just talk about shit. And second off, if I'm ever in the same place as you, I'm making you food if you're up for it, and like giving you a beer and like sitting down and talking about whatever.
And hugs.
Oh, yeah, many of those. Especially if I look at a beer or have more than like a third of it, I get like real fuzzy and then I just want to hug everybody. So I am 6'3" and have 0 alcohol tolerance.
I'm 6'2", which means we're perfect hugging height.
It does.
Okay, so here's one thing we have to establish first, though, because usually, like, when based on height difference, the hugs go differently. So, see, you can't go over.
No,
it has to be sideways. So, one over, one under.
Okay.
Is the perfect embrace for the height difference, or the height similarity.
Do we both lean left or do we both lean right? Because if not,
it'll just happen.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
It'll just get figured out.
Just let it be natural.
I think a bunch of us are going to PAX South next year, or trying to. So if you somehow end up there,
the big win.
Next year is much more possible.
Yeah.
This year, like, a bunch of really cool stuff is happening, but I still don't have a day job. So all of my money is from Patreon and Mutants. So I have like $3.
Out of context, that's a really weird sentence.
Those philanthropic Mutants.
It's like this tweet I saw.
Donations.
I saw this one tweet.
You can get on that.
This person has finished training and is officially a dolphin. And somebody's like, if you didn't know that was about football, that's real fucking weird.
Told you the level up system gets odd in Apocalypse World.
But yeah, we're trying to do some stuff at PAX South. It should be next January, I think. So, I think the plan is to like just reach out to everybody and see who's coming and try to set up like a huge, at least night where we like play board games and like drink and have food and just. We may be renting a mansion on Airbnb.
Yes.
With
fighting ghosts in our haunted mansion.
Yeah,
it's the other activity.
I was gonna say I still need to write a murder mystery or something for that, don't I? Crap.
We could play 10 Candles in a huge empty wing of a mansion.
Oh, there you go.
You want to see me ugly cry, is what you're saying.
I've been on hormones for a year and a half now. I ugly cry at the drop of a hat, or thinking about the hat because it drops and it gets all dirty, so you can't wear it.
Yeah, it's gonna be good times.
So, any more actually pertinent questions before I just talk about like food and everybody hanging out and hugging?
I feel like we ride this one out. We can come back, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you come back anytime. We'll talk about whatever. It's good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm around.
For sure.
All right. Well, I guess if you want to do your big long spiel and then give a non-capitalist plug of the day. It's a thing I have stolen from Ash because I really like it, and she gave me permission. So I guess it's loaned. She loaned it to me.
Shared.
Yes, and then we'll all go around and do our things. So yes.
All right. I have been DC. I don't know why I'm doing this right now, but I'm doing it.
You succeeded at being DC the whole time.
It started as a stretch, and then I realized that it's a thing.
You do it. You do the champion of the world bit.
So you can follow me on Twitter at Dungeon Commander. There's no E in the Commander. I talk about a lot of stuff there fairly freely. I am much better at words on Twitter. On that Twitter, if you look at my pinned tweet, you can find a link to Mutants in the Night, my game. It is currently on itch.io, a lovely website. And honestly, it's just cool as fuck. Just go play it. You won't regret it. It's very fun. Other things I would like to point out that's non-capitalist and wonderful. What's been doing me good lately? Hydration. Apparently y'all don't drink water. I am a plant. I drink 6 to 9 to 10 bottles of water a day. People are like, oh, I have a headache. I don't get those unless I'm staring at a screen like this close for a long time. Water. It's good for you. You're made of it. Drink it. Fuck all that soda. It's nasty. High fructose corn syrup, you can't even digest that.
High fructose corn syrup, you're fucking up.
Yeah. That right there. If I could never have high fructose corn syrup again, I would be so happy.
You can. You just gotta move.
I gotta get the fuck out of here. I'm getting out of the U.S., man.
I hear there's a bunch of cool people in Australia. You know, if you want to make a trip out of it.
I wouldn't stop hugging them. That's the only downside there.
Same.
Like,
same.
They'd be trying to drive.
Please, at least move your arms off of my face. I need to drive. I say, I just can't.
Yeah. That's my non-capitalist thing. And hug an Australian.
All right. Matt, you want to
go? Gosh, what do I plug thing? Christ, what do you want me to do? I can't recommend hugging Australia myself. Not my set. I could do New Zealanders. Yeah, absolutely. Hug the New Zealander. That works. Otherwise, I don't really have a capitalist bent right now. I just have several different half-finished projects that I need to get off my butt and do. So, yeah, look for those. They'll happen eventually at some point, I'm certain.
All right, Zach, you want to go?
Sure. Thanks, everybody. I've been Zach. You can find me here a lot, I feel like. Relatedly, my non-capitalist plug is sleep. Get it. Do it. It's good for you. I'm on Twitter at Thrognar, which is spelled exactly how it sounds. And thanks for coming out, everybody.
All right. I'm Aaron. Hi. If you want to check out all the stuff our podcast does, you can do it at Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, or patreon.com/thatdnd podcast. No ampersand, the letter N instead. You can email us at thatdndpodcast@gmail.com. Check the podcast out at thatdndpodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts from. If you want to check me out for whatever the hell reason, I'm at on Twitch. The Road Virus with underscores between the words, and the Road Virus on Twitter with an E or a 3 instead of the E. We will be doing more of these interviews. We usually stream on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and my non-capitalist plug for today is go to someone that you care about and share with them something that is important to you. It could be cooking them a meal, giving them a hug, listening to them. Just spend time doing a thing with somebody that you care about. It's good for both of you. And thank you all for coming and hanging out, and have a good night.
Night.